Hi guys, and welcome back to another poker journey vlog. So just to give you a little bit of background, if you're new, if you haven't watched my previous videos, I'm a very self-proclaimed bad poker player. I'm very amateur, looking to improve my game, work my way up to playing some live cash games in my local casino. The way I'm sort of tracking my progress is I'm working on a ranking system, rank 1 through to 10, 10 being I'm ready to play in those cash games. I'm currently at rank 1. That's where I put myself as a very amateur player. I'm looking for you guys to give me feedback in the comment section. Tell me what I could have done better. Tell me how I could have played hands better. And if enough of you say that you're ready to move on, you can up your rank, or you think you're ready to progress, I'll award myself a promotion, move myself up to rank 2 and go again. And when we hit that magical rank 10, I'll do some live cash games. Okay, so let's jump in. We're playing 2-cent, 5-cent blinds. I've bought in for $5. We'll play for about half an hour, I think, and I'll go through the interesting hands that happen and see how we go. So we're dealt 6-4 suited on the button. Action folds to me. I limp in with my suited connectors and we go heads up with the big blind pre-flop, who checks his option. The flop comes 7-3 ace rainbow, so we now have a straight backdoor straight draw as well as a backdoor flush draw, and we could be representing a whole host of hands given the fact that we've limped in from the button against the big blind. Big blind checks his action to me, so I decide rather than check it back to him, we'll put out a little bet just to see where we're at. Big blind tanks for a while, considers his options, and he folds. We take down the pot. Next hand, we're dealt King 8 off in the big blind. Got one limper, the action folds to the small blind, who then also folds. So we're now heads up. I check so we can see a flop. The flop comes Queen 5 deuce rainbow. Now, from the small blind, I'm limping in. I should have a relatively narrow range here that could potentially connect with this board with the queen. But as you can see, I haven't connected with this board. So there's two ways I could play this. I could either bet to indicate I want to continue, and it would probably mean I have connected with this board, or check. To me, checking could mean two things for my opponent. It could mean that I've either have connected and I'm trying to set a trap, or I haven't connected. Now, I decide to check because I haven't connected. I don't have anything on this board. I don't really have a lot of draws either. I don't have any draws either. So I check just to see where my opponent's at. He then bets and I instantly fold. If he's connected with that board, I'm not. There's a chance of me improving on later streets. Not worth it. I'll get out of the hand there. That's the right call. I don't know. Let me know what you think down below in the comments, and maybe I could have played that hand better. Next hand comes 8-7 off in the cutoff. Action folds to me and I'll limp in with these holdings. Button takes his time to fold. Small blind then calls. The flop comes King 6-3 with 2 spades. Action goes check from the small blind. Check from the big blind. I'm going to bet because I have a range advantage here with my ace high as well. This bet induces a fold from the small blind and a fold from the big blind. We take the pot down. Nothing wrong with that. Next, we're dealt Queen 7 suited under the gun. So, not really enough to raise from here under the gun. We have a narrow range, but I'm happy to limp in with the suited Broadway card. Action then folds to the small blind, who also folds. Big blind then decides to check their option. We go to a flop, and it's a miracle flop for us. We flop King Ace 6 with 2 clubs. We now have the nut flush draw up on the board. We are definitely not going anywhere now. Big blind bets to 14 cents, and we call that off pretty quickly. The turn then comes and we drill the nut flush. The big blind then bets, and we decide we're not going there. We're gonna raise them here, see where they're at. They call. The 7 of spades then comes on the river. Now, given how the action has gone, I will put the big blind on some sort of range of maybe some suited connectors, either on the low end of the board and they've connected with the 5-6, or potentially they had suited clubs as well and they were also playing for the flush. Either way, we have the nut flush. Would only be losing to a full house, but seeing as the board's not paired, that's not possible. So we're not going anywhere. We will be taking down this pot. It's just a question of whether or not we can get any value out of them. So they check. We then put out a bet for about 2/3 of the pot. We are betting for value here, so it's 150, so we bet $1 into it. See if we can induce them to call if they think they've got a better flush. They fold, we take down the pot. The next hand we have is Queen 9 suited as the big blind. The under the gun player folds, middle position raises to 10, then folds to me and I call for 5 more to defend. The flop comes 7 to 8 with 2 hearts. Now, from the big blind I should have a wide range of hands I could represent on this board. It's probably fairly likely to hit me more than the middle position raiser. I expect to have relatively strong holdings opening from this position, so I put out a bet of 10 and the middle position player calls. The turn then comes 6 of diamonds. Doesn't really help me, and I don't expect it to help my opponent either, so I think Queen I might be good here. So again, put another bet of 15 into a pot of 42. Once again, the middle position player calls. The river then comes the 4 of diamonds. So there's potential for a 5-6 straight to get there, but I'm not worried about that at this point. Purely because, I've got that wrong. 5. If he's got a 5, the straight's there. I wouldn't expect him to have that though, seeing as he's open from middle position. So I would expect him to have some sort of ace holdings here. A range of aces, maybe pocket kings or maybe a lower broadway pocket pair. I'd check it here because I'm not really sure where we're at, and Queen High might be good, but I don't really want to commit any more money to this pot. And middle position player checks it back, so we show Queen 9 and he shows Ace 10 to beat us with the high card ace. So not a lot we can do about that. I don't think we could have played that any better. If you think there's something we could have done, maybe bluffed him off the pot or pushed him off the pot maybe, let me know in the comments down below. Here we're dealt King Queen off on the cutoff. The gun player raises to 15. Middle position player folds. I call for 15 with my King Queen, then folds round and we go heads up to the flop. The flop comes 4-3 ace rainbow. So under the gun players raised 15, so I should really expect him to have a very narrow range of strong holding here. So maybe around ace kings, pocket aces, ace 10, ace queen, that kind of thing. Or suited connectors or pocket broadways. I should definitely even think that even more when he then bets 20 cents into a 37-cent pot from under the gun. So for me, that is a turbo fold, as this board hasn't connected with my range at all. Let me know if that's a right fold. Should I have folded pre-flop, or was it okay to see a flop there? I'm not sure. Leave your comments down below. Next, we're dealt ace king on the button. The action folds to me and I raise this up to 15 cents. And only the big blind comes along and he calls for 10 more. We then go heads up to the flop. The flop comes 3 king deuce with 2 clubs. The big blind checks. This suits my range a lot more. I definitely have the range advantage here. I want to try and get some value out of this. I'm pretty sure my top pair is probably going to be winning at this point. So I lead out for 10 cents, about 1/3 of the pot. The big blind calls. The turn then comes the 7 of clubs. Doesn't really help me, but seeing as he's calling from the big blind, this could have connected with something he may have. So he does bet 5 cents as well, but it's a pretty small bet, and I'm still reckoning my king high is pretty good here. So I make the call for 5 cents. The river then comes 10 of hearts. Doesn't really make any difference to us. It could have connected with him. He does then bet 29 cents into a pot of 62. So it's only about a third of the pot. I don't think we can let ace king go here. We've got top pair on the board with top kicker. I raise it up to $1.20, thinking if he calls, I'm probably going to win some money, or I could get him to fold and win the pot. He does then fold, and we do take this pot down. Nice $1.15 onto our stack. Happy days. Next, we're dealt ace queen suited under the gun. We're happy to limp in on this one. The cutoff then raises up to 10 after middle position folds. The button also folds. The small blind cold calls for 8 cents more. The big blind also calls for 5 cents. I think for another 5 cents, I'm happy to see a flop here. We are playing above our starting stack now. Flop comes 9, queen, 8, all hearts. So the heart flush is already complete. The small blind checks, the big blind checks. Now, I'm trying to deny equity from people who either have flush draws. So I lead the betting out for 10, seeing as we did get top pair and bottom pair on the flop. The cutoff calls and the small blind calls, the big blind then folds. Turn comes to 7 of clubs, doesn't really help us, but it does put a straight draw out on the board. Small blind checks, given where we are, whereas the straight's now up in contention as well as the flush, I'm happy to check this one behind to see if we can see a free card. The cutoff then checks as well, so we do see a free card. The free card that we see is the ace of hearts. There's now 4 hearts on the board, making the chance that someone's got a flush even more likely. It's also an overpair to our queen as well, so I'm not really liking this card for us. I like it even less when the small blind then bets 23 cents, which is just over a third of the pot. Given that we've only got 2 pair here, the flush is out there, and the small blind cold called us on pre-flop, I think we're probably good to take a leaf out of Elsa's book here and let this one go. And the big blind also lets that one go as well. So the small blind wins the pot. Next up, we're dealt ace 7 suited as the big blind. The action folds round to the small blind, who calls 3 more. Given that we're now going to be heads up to the flop regardless, I'm happy to open this up a bit more and raise it up to 15 cents, given I've got my suited ace. Small blind calls and comes along to see a flop. Flop comes 3, 6, king with 2 hearts. We've got the nut flush draw. Feeling good. Small blind checks, so we're feeling even better now. We're happy to bet about a third of the pot, or exactly a third of the pot, to see if we can get the small blind to come along with us to try and hit that flush draw. The turn comes with 4 of hearts. We drill the nut flush. There is the possibility of a straight out there, but given that the small blind has called us all the way through here, I don't think he's got the straight. So what would he need for the straight? Deuce 5 for the straight. Don't think he would get into a pot with that kind of hand. He checks the turn. I bet again 15, about a third of the pot, and he calls again. So I'm not quite sure what he's trying to represent here. I guess the straight, I just don't think he would have it given the amount of money he's put into this pot from that position. River comes 8 of diamonds. Doesn't really change anything for us. We still reckon we've got the best hand here. We're only losing to a full house or quads, but the board's not paired, so that's not out. Not really possible. Straight flush is possible. Again, but the cards required to do it. I don't think he would have put that kind of money into the pot pre-flop with those cards. So we bet over half the pot. The small blind folds. We take down this pot as we thought we would from the turn. Next we're dealt ace 9 off on the cutoff. Under the gun player folds. The middle position then raises to 15 cents. Now, given that if we can get the button to fold, will be in position, I'm happy to call this with my ace. So I call the 15 and the button does fold. The small blind then calls for 13 cents more and the big blind folds. We go 3 ways to the flop in position. The flop comes king, 9, jack, rainbow. The small blind then leads out for 24 cents. The middle position player calls. Now, given that the middle position player was the pre-flop progressor and the small blind called that, although we've got bottom pair, and so we do have showdown value and we do have a straight draw as well, I'm not particularly feeling keen about going up against these two players considering the way they're betting, so I let my cards go. For the penultimate hand, we are in the small blind and we are dealt ace jack suited. The cutoff raises to 15, the button calls, and I think with the ace jack suited in the small blind, we're good to call this here for 13 cents more, and the big blind then folds. We go 3 ways to the flop out of position. A flop comes 7, jack, 10 with 2 spades, so we hit top pair with top kicker on this flop, so I'm happy to lead out for 15 cents into a 50-cent pot here, so it's about a third of the pot, well, just over or just under a third of the pot. The cutoff calls and the other player folds. I can't remember what position he was in, so we're now going heads up to the turn. Turn comes 3 of diamonds. It doesn't really help either of us. I would expect the cutoff to have a wider range that potentially could have connected with the flop, but I don't think the 3 of diamonds is going to help him here. Doesn't really improve us either, so I decide to check. The cutoff then bets for 25 cents into a pot of 80, so it's just over a quarter of the pot. It's quite a small sizing considering how the pot is. I've still got top pair with top kicker, so I'm thinking I'm probably good here. I'm not quite sure what he's angling for. I call. The river then comes the ace of clubs, so we now have top 2 pair on this board. Again, I'm thinking that because he bet on the turn and I'm not quite sure what he could possibly have, there's no real straight out there, the flush isn't there, really only the top pairs is where we're at really, especially now with the river coming out. So when he bets 94 cents into a pot of 130, so nearly the full pot, I'm thinking he's probably bluffing at this. Maybe he's got 1 pair at best. So I just call it. We flip and we show he shows 1 pair with the 7. So he only got he got bottom pair on the flop and didn't improve. And we had top 2 pairs, so we take this pot down. We win total pot of $3.05. So the last hand I want to include because I'm not entirely sure if it's the right way to play this or not. So I just wanted to get your guys' opinion. So please leave your thoughts in the comments down below on all of the hands, not just this one, but this one specifically I quite like some feedback on. So I'm in the cutoff and I'm dealt 5-5, pocket 5s. The undergun player limps in. I decide to call because I think I've got a pocket 5s, I've got a hand already. Under the gun's only limped in, so given that they have a narrow range from this position, I wouldn't expect them to have too stronger holdings. So I'm happy to limp in. Button folds, small blind calls for 3 cents more, and the big blind checks our option. We go 4 ways to the flop. The flop comes king 2 8 with 2 clubs. So I don't really improve on this board. The small blind bets 5. The big blind bets 5. The under the gun player then raises to 17 cents. So given that he has a narrow range and he limped in, I would expect him to have a Broadway card, maybe some suited connectors. Given that there's now 2 clubs on the board, there is a flush draw out there as well. So given that action, I then fold my pocket 5s. Let me know if you think that's the right call. I think it is, but maybe I could have played this differently. Let me know. And that's it for all today's video. Thanks for watching, guys. Really appreciate you coming to check out my content and sticking around. If you like what you see and you want to see more, please subscribe, like the video, and drop some comments providing me feedback on how you think I could have played hands better, or if there are different things I could have done in different situations to maybe improve the action that I faced. If you could comment as well, it really helps the algorithms of YouTube. Just a quick summary of today. So we bought in for $5. We played for about half an hour, cashed out for $6.94, so a profit of just under $2. We played about 45 hands. I'm happy with that for a short session. Let me know what you guys think. Thanks for your time. Peace out.